Today we're going to go over fire extinguisher training. So let's first go over some general guidelines for fighting fires. Fire extinguishers need to be easily accessible at all times. They need to be in an area that's not going to have them obstructed by boxes, chairs, or some kind of junk. It needs to be in a cleaner area. You don't want it to be dirty and have spider webs and stuff all over it. It should never be placed on the ground. They're going to need to be mounted in a way that they're not going to easily fall and injure someone. This is one of the ones we have in the lab. It's in some kind of box that is inside the wall. It's mounted inside the wall. You pull the door open. You would have to pull it out to make it fall. So there's other ways that you can do, but something similar. Do you see a problem with this fire extinguisher? Well, there's a barrel in front of it, and there's poles leaned up around it, and junk piled. It's dirty, there's spider webs hanging off of it. It's not going to be easy to just grab and go and use. You're going to have to move stuff, you're going to have to wipe it off. So all that should be cleaned up and stuff moved. This has also got a problem. I mean, it's a nice area, it's clean, it's well marked, but there's a pole been stuck right in front of it. That pole needs to be moved so that if you have to grab it, you can grab it and go, and there's nothing going to be in your way to help you get it quickly and start using it. And here's a zoomed in picture on a pressure gauge that's on a fire extinguisher, or some fire extinguishers. You want the gauge to be in an operable range. This one is not. Operable range is right here it'll be on the green. This is showing that it's either been used or it's leaking. There's something wrong with it. It needs to be recharged, or it could possibly need to be replaced. Fire extinguishers need to have locator signs placed around them so that people know where they are. They're easy to find in an emergency. You know that that's where it's at. You're not having to hunt for a fire extinguisher. And after you use a fire extinguisher, you're never going to put it back on the wall or in your vehicle, even if it's only used for a few seconds. Once that fire extinguisher has been used, it's not going to operate right again because it could leak the pressure out, and then when you really need it, it's not going to work. So those extinguishers should be replaced or recharged as soon as possible. And you have 3 elements that you need to make a fire. You need heat, fuel, and oxygen, and that's going to cause a fire. So you need heat to reach ignition temperature. You need fuel or a combustible material to feed the fire. You need oxygen to sustain the combustion. Together, they produce a chemical reaction that is fire. A fire is prevented or extinguished by removing any one of these 3 elements. So you need to keep fuel and ignition sources separate. A fire naturally occurs when these elements are combined in the right mixture. Fires are classified according to the type of fire that is burning. So we have fire classes or fuel classes. So what type of material is on fire is how you classify that. So if it's paper, grease, electrical equipment, kitchen fire, it's going to be a different classification. It's very important to understand these different fire or fuel classifications. Understanding this will allow you to correctly use the right fire extinguisher. If you were to use the wrong type of fire extinguisher on the wrong class of fire, there's a good chance you would not be able to control or even extinguish the fire. So here's the fuel classifications. Class A is a common combustible, like wood, paper, cloth, plastic. Class B is flammable or combustible liquids and gases, like gasoline, kerosene, methane, propane. Class C is energized electrical equipment, like computers, appliances, television, some machinery that's been plugged in. So it's anything that has power going to a device. Class D are combustible metals like magnesium, lithium, titanium. Class K is cooking grease from man-made or from animal fat. These are usually in kitchen areas of restaurants and cafeterias. Most fire extinguishers will have a picture label telling you which type of fire the extinguisher is designed to fight. This is from a lab extinguisher. They also have instructions on the label. So this one is for A, B, and C, so it's going to be a combination. Different types of fire extinguishers are designed to fight different classes of fires. The three most common types of fire extinguishers are water, which is a class A, carbon dioxide, which is a class BC, dry chemical, which is a class ABC, BC, or DC, and less common are dry powder class D and wet chemical class K. So let's go over the different types of extinguishers. This one is pressurized water. It's for class A fires only. They're going to be in a silver canister. They're going to have a pressure gauge on them. Extinguishes by cooling burning material below ignition point. So that's taking the heat element from the fire to help put that fire out. Carbon dioxide, they're for class B or class C fires. Those are going to be red. They're not going to have a gauge. And they're going to have like a big horn or a hose nozzle at the bottom. They're different than the others. They're going to extinguish the fire by smothering burning materials and displacing oxygen. Multi-purpose dry chemical, and those are for class A, B, or C fires. This is like the one we had in the lab. It's got the pressure gauge, it's red. Extinguishes by smothering burning material. This separates the fuel from the oxygen in the air. And class K fires, there's a wet chemical. These are typically silver canisters. It's going to extinguish by cooling and forming a foam blanket to prevent the fire from reigniting. And that's going to be for cooking media. Dry powder or class D fires, a lot of those are yellow. They're going to extinguish by cooling and smothering. Powder will act as a heat sink while forming a crust that cuts off the oxygen supply. So let's go over the anatomy of a fire extinguisher. You have a discharge lever at the top, and you have a discharge locking pin and seal. So if you have that pin in, that lever is not really going to move. But when you pull that pin out, you're going to be able to press that down, and it's going to make the extinguisher work. You have a discharge hose, you have a discharge nozzle, and a discharge orifice. And you're going to have a pressure gauge on most extinguishers. We know it's not on the carbon dioxide. And you have a carrying handle, which when you have that pin out, that discharge lever will push down to the carrying handle. You have a data plate that's going to have instructions, and it's going to tell you what class. And you have the body. So how do you use a fire extinguisher? Well, there's an easy acronym that you can use while you're using one. It's called PASS. So you're going to pull the pin, you're going to aim the nozzle, you're going to squeeze the handle, and you're going to sweep from side to side at the base of the fire. PASS. So pull the pin. This will allow you to discharge the fire extinguisher. The pin prevents the fire extinguisher from being accidentally discharged by squeezing the handle. You're going to aim at the base of the fire. Hit the fuel. If you aim at the flames, the extinguishing agent will fly right through, and it's not going to stop the fire. So you're going to aim at what is actually on fire. Squeeze the top handle. Squeezing the handle opens a valve that releases the pressurized extinguishing agent from the fire extinguisher. And then you're going to sweep from side to side until the fire is completely out. Start using the fire extinguisher from a safe distance, 6, 8, even 10 feet away, and then slowly move forward if possible. Once the fire is out, keep an eye on the area in case it reignites. Here's some guidelines for fighting fires. Fires can be very dangerous, and you should always be certain that you will not endanger yourself or others when attempting to put out a fire. For this reason, when a fire is discovered, you should assist any person in immediate danger to safety. If you can't do this without risking it yourself, then don't put yourself at danger too. You should call 911 and activate the building fire alarm. The fire alarm will notify the others in the building so they know to get out. If the fire is small and only after you've done these two things, you may attempt to use an extinguisher to put it out. Before deciding to fight the fire, keep these things in mind. You need to know what's burning. If you don't know what's burning, you don't know what kind of fire extinguisher to use. Chances are you will know what's burning, or at least have a pretty good idea, but if you don't, let the fire department handle it. The time to use a fire extinguisher is at the beginning stages of a fire. If the fire is already spreading quickly, it's best to simply evacuate the building. As you evacuate the building, you need to close the door, if there is one, behind you as you leave, because this is going to help slow down the spread of the smoke and the fire. The final rule is to always position yourself with an exit or means of escape at your back before you attempt to use an extinguisher to put out a fire. In case the extinguisher malfunctions or something unexpected happens, you need to be able to get out quickly. You don't want to become trapped by the fire. And in this picture, it shows how this man has got his back to the door and he's spraying the fire as he backs out. So it could be a door, it could be a window, whatever you need to get out. Never fight a fire if you don't know what's burning. If you don't know what's burning, you don't know what type of extinguisher to use. The fire appears too large to handle with one extinguisher. If the fire is spreading rapidly beyond the spot where it has started, you don't have an adequate or appropriate fire extinguisher, you might inhale toxic smoke, or your instincts are telling you just not to do it. Here's a short video on how to use a fire extinguisher.
Alert! Before using a fire extinguisher, ensure that someone notifies the fire department, alerts others about the fire, begins evacuating others from the premises. Fire extinguishers are for controlling small fires before they have a chance to spread. Before using one, make sure that you have a clear escape, you are familiar with the operating instructions of the fire extinguisher, and that the fire extinguisher you have is suitable for the fire you're facing. Before using the extinguisher on a fire, look at the fire class symbols on the front label to make sure the extinguisher you have is suitable for the type of fire you're facing. The most common classes of fires are A, B, C, and K. Class A fires involve common combustibles like wood, paper, and tires. Class B fires involve flammable liquids like gasoline and petroleum oil. Class C ratings involve energized equipment or things that are plugged in, like appliances, computers, televisions, and electric machinery. Class K fires involve cooking oils and greases, like vegetable fats. Once you determine that the extinguisher is the correct type for the hazard, proceed to operate the extinguisher using the pass technique to control and extinguish the fire. First, hold the extinguisher upright and pull the pin. Next, stand 8 to 10 feet from the fire and aim the nozzle at the base of the fire. Do not get too close or aim the nozzle too high. Once the nozzle is aimed at the base of the fire, squeeze the levers together to begin discharge of the fire extinguishing agent. Maintain your distance from the fire and sweep the nozzle from side to side, sweeping 3 to 6 inches beyond the right and left edges of the fire. Discharge the extinguisher until contents are exhausted to prevent reignition. Move around the fire to confirm it is completely extinguished. Your quick action can save lives and protect property. Using the fire extinguisher properly is only one part of a fire safety plan. For more information and training videos, go to www.femalifesafety.org.
If you have any questions or comments, you can stop by the lab and talk to me, and I'll try to answer them for you.